Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, 8th April 2017. The first article, Eat, Pray, Love, the Hindutva Template. This article is by Shiv Vishwanathan, and Mr. Vishwanathan's article has a strong ideological pitch. So, I will try to talk the core of his point, and from that, I will try to explain what the example he is quoting for. So, in this, he tries to see the life from a means and ends perspective. Democracy also from the same perspective. So, ends of the democracy or ends of the governance, it has to be justice, equality. So, in this case, whatever the laws we enact and whatever the governance mechanisms we put in place, their ultimate objective is to reach to the justice and equality. So, these laws and rules, these have to be as fair as possible. So, how these laws and governance has to be based on this justness and fairness, we make our constitution. So that's why the rules and laws shall never be discriminatory and they shall bring in sense of justice among the people. And if it misses in the law and governance of the country, every country will go through a disturbance or a civil war. This is what the history tells us. So in this context, caste-based discrimination in the country, religion-based discrimination, they are existing in the social system. When state takes the side of these things, when the state also becomes discriminatory, then obviously it will take an oppressive tone. So that's why state has to be neutral, and anyone who is deviating the rule, it has to punish them, without any discrimination. So in this context, let's see the cow vigilantism. And the cow vigilantism, there are certain states, Gujarat, Rajasthan, these have passed certain laws. And in these laws, the people or the society which is taking up the vigil against the cow slaughter, these shall not be prosecuted. So, in a way, a free hand is being given to the cow vigilantes towards harassing certain people. So, that's what is the perspective of Shiv Vishwanathan. And second thing is, if the state becomes discriminatory itself, let's take when slaughterhouses are closed in UP, many people lost the livelihood. And certain sections of the people over a period of time, they are dependent on that particular business. So that business runs across the communities, families, etc. So in closure, a drastic closure, ultimately that threatens their livelihood. And the food habits of the people are also dependent on that. So discrimination, promotion of vegetarianism as a way of life, these may be good, but it shall be a choice of an individual. It shall not be forced onto an individual. If the state tries to force something onto the citizens, and the citizen believes it as unjust and unfair, anti-state actions are bound to increase. And these may take a color of anti-national, and the friction between the citizens and the civil society and the state will increase, and it is not good for democracy or development. That is what is the perspective which he has discussed this article. Now, an echo of the French past. This article is not important in the context of India, but let me explain you this way. What is the role of a charismatic leader? Charismatic leadership, can it solve the people's problems? So, whenever the people are going through a crisis phase, society is going through a crisis phase, people want a change. So, a new vision, if a leader is able to give, the people will admire him, and we can see an immediate success of the individual. If you see the President Obama, when the crisis is going on, economic crisis is going on, he gave a new ray of hope to Americans. And second is, the same thing is happening in France now. Mr. Hollande, he has given the slogan of change, but he has measurably failed. So an young person, Emmanuel Macron, he is in the front race for the presidential office. In 1970s, there was a similar person, Giscard d'Estaing. How you pronounce it, it's your choice. This is how I pronounce it as. Mr. Giscard d'Estaing. So he was very much popular among the French people. But always the charismatic leader has certain limitations. So these people can mobilize or these leaders can mobilize the people, take them to the next level, or bring a aspiration or hope to the next level. But they fail in maintaining the same. Once they get into power, there is a good reason for them to transform as dictatorial. So, when power comes into hand, how the power can be managed, that is the most important thing. So, Mr. Estiang in 1970s has miserably failed. So, in this context, Emmanuel Macron, how he is going to manage the power once he becomes the president becomes very crucial. And the next is, in administration, we differentiate between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. So, a good manager is transactional, and a good leader shall be transformational. A charismatic leadership, if it has a strong team, strong motive, and strong direction, obviously a charismatic leader and a transactional manager in him, that's the right combination. I cite Obama as an example for that. He is a transactional and transformational. Whenever I hear his speeches, I feel that awe factor in him. And then, track to efficiency. This is about the recent Railway Development Authority. Rail Development Authority. If you see, regulatory functions, operational functions, and then infrastructure development, everything is in the hands of the rail board now. So rail board is a regulatory office. It also takes up the developmental functions. It also takes up the operational functions. As all these collabed into rail board, the rail board is too powerful and many times there is conflict of interest. And added above this, you have the politics of the day. So most of the cases, when a railway ministry is given to a particular minister from a particular state, and the resources will be diverted to the place. Lalu Prasad Yadav, Mamata Banerjee, all these people, they tried to take the railway resources to their own place. And most of all this is, railways has become a tool for populism for these leaders. So no one has raised the passenger charges in spite of rising inflation and cost of operations. That's why no new investment is available for renovation infrastructure development. Added to that, railways is a department organization, department owned public sector undertaking that monopoly made no private investments to enter into it. So now, rail modernization needs flow of investment, and then efficient market planning, and finally, reflection of the day's needs are safety of the customer and quality services to the customer. So this is what is the expectation of the rail board, rail development authority now. So in a way, we are separating the operational functions from the regulatory functions. The regulatory functions will be taken up by Rail Development Authority. Operational functions now will be conducted by Rail Board. So this is what is the mechanism which was undertaken in Europe and which is by and large successful. But UK's rail experiment has a different story. In UK, the rail or else the public transport system, it was broken into various units, various companies, that has led to the failure in coordination, and the entire public transport system has broken down in UK. And National Transport Development Policy. This has stated way back in 2014 that the centralization of all functions in rail board is detrimental to the rail growth in India. And is Mugabe moment. So it is about Mr. Zuma in South Africa. So Jacob Zuma and his authoritative tendencies, these are destabilizing the African National Congress in South Africa. So now, let me talk something about Nelson Mandela over here. The revolution in South Africa is called as Rainbow Revolution. Because when a person is humiliated for years together, when he has got the power into his hand, the first thought that comes into his mind is revenge. And that attitude of revenge has collapsed Zimbabwe. But Nelson Mandela, he has talked about reconciliation between different groups. So whites and Africans, both of them has to get reconciled so that a colorful country can be born. That's what is the future he has envisioned. So when the power it has come, again I say that managing the power is the biggest thing in any life. And visionaries, great leaders, they know this art of managing the power. Now, Jacob Zuma, so he has allegations of corruption, and then currency's value is falling drastically, high rate of inflation, dictatorial tendencies, all these are making him to lose respect. African National Congress once enjoyed as the respect of the people. It is slowly declining. So this is what is been described as Mugabe moment for Jacob Zuma. The Mugabe, what he did is he started threatening the white companies over there, and he started raising the rent from them. So it means he used the white and he started threatening them to take the corrupt proceeds from them. So similarly, the Africa is also transforming itself. So that's what I can say it as. So the institutional weaknesses are clearly visible in Africa now, South Africa now. This institutional deterioration can damage the democracy. So Nelson Mandela, that's why I call him as the greatest leader. If you get the Mandela's movie, try to watch that, you will understand what he did to that country. Reconciliation, reapproachment between the groups, ability to accept the others. These makes the difference to life. Now let's get into the news page. So the first is the interview. So I have ordered this book today. That is, there are glaring inequalities in our social system. So Mr. Ashoka, he wrote certain important points over here. Let us try to understand over here. So he was, Ashwani Kumar. So he wrote a book that is Challenges in Democracy. What is that? A Hope in Challenged Democracy, an Indian Narrative. That's what is the name of the book. So whenever you are writing an article or whenever you are writing an essay, try to quote the name of the book. So in this context, let us understand his observation. The first observation of the author is, India is resilient but a faltering democracy. So why India is a faltering democracy? So I can divide his discussion into procedural and substantive democracy. So procedural democracy wise, electoral democracy in India is filled with caste, communal politics, muscle power, money power, etc. So that's why the people with reason and logic are unable to enter into the legislative houses, and it is leading to criminalization of politics. And the next is, the democracy is also about wider representation of all the communities. So see the question over here. Democracy is also about the widest possible representation. So when we say, does only the intellectuals have to take part in the debate? So does democracy means elitism? No. Democracy is not a question of elites. Democracy is a question of representation of every community and voice to be heard in the legislative institutions. Now, what is the answer of the author for the same? What he says is, yes, that is true. But however, political representation is key to democracy. But what is the quality of representation? That's also very much important over here. So in this case, to what extent our democracy is serving to the welfare of the people? If you remember Jawaharlal Nehru, the objective of governance, the objective of democracy, for this ultimate litmus test is the welfare of the people. And the next is RTI. So we always praise the RTI. It has empowered the people, etc. But on the other side, there are wrongs to RTI too. RTI is used by many vested interests to exploit the government employees. So because of this, a kind of timidness, indecisiveness, paralysis has come into governance. So that's why this indecisiveness, one way is due to RTI. But however, when we have so complex procedures and processes, then if anything goes wrong, a person is not a computer to remember anything. So when something goes wrong, obviously the officer will be made responsible even after his retirement. So that's why everyone is conscious in making the decisions and the files are moving upwards. So there is an attitude for buck passing among the people. That's what he talks about. And then, so Congress is facing an unprecedented challenge. We don't get into Congress or BJP over here. What I can say it as how the leadership for the country has to be. So the ethical leadership, a leadership that is compassionate and empathetic, that is necessary for the country. Now, finally, one more point which he has spoke about is democracy in any country is linked to the quality of the leadership. Leadership in a democracy is about bonding, ability to bind people to a cause, communicating with the people, empathizing with the people, espousing the sensitivities of the people towards a cause. So these all the things are very good statements. They have a deeper sense of meaning. Now, next page. The first page. Already I have discussed this. Supreme Court seeks response on the plea for reining in cow vigilance. So already you know that Haryana and then Gujarat, Rajasthan or Maharashtra, all these passed some one or the other cow protection laws. Animal protection is not wrong. But in the name of the animal protection, certain fringe groups taking the law into their hands and the state keeping itself silent to the same and leading to violation of the rights of the citizens, that is detrimental to the rule of law. So that's why the Supreme Court has intervened and tried to do or try for the government response for the same. So Trump has ordered for Tomahawk cruise missiles attack on the Syrian air base. Now if you take Syria, so Obama he wanted to have a hands-off approach from Syria. So in this context, Obama even did to get away from the Saudi Arabia. So the Saudi Arabia wants an attack on Syria by the United States of America, which Obama did not yield to. And then Iran, Russia, these are the supporters of Mr. Assad regime. And Saudi Arabia, UAE, Yemen, all these are the opponents of this. And added to that, the Shia militia group in Lebanon, this is also a supporter of Syria, supporter of Assad regime in Syria. So, Assad has got his own supporters and there is a great game of power going on in the Middle East now. So, it is a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And added to that, a proxy war is developing between Russia and USA. So, will it go out of the control is the question. So let us wait and see the things how they will happen now. Now, there is an important argument over here. Let us see this article. It's a very small article. There is a long, very good information in this. Indian economy is witnessing a structural shift. If you remember a few days back, Thomas Piketty, who wrote Capital in 21st Century book, he has visited New Delhi. And he made one important statement. In India, people invest in physical assets rather than the financial assets. Financial assets like mutual funds, etc. If I have money, I will try to buy a piece of land. And the land appreciation is many a times higher compared to the appreciation of the financial instruments. So it is due to operation of the black money in the economy. And the tax evasion is very high because of this. But a slow transformation is happening. So people are shifting from physical assets to the financial assets. But however, social security like educational security of the children and retirement plans in the financial assets, these are not increasing in India. If you go to United States 401k, 401k, so this is a very famous thing where every person when he is doing the job, he will save the money for his retirement. So similarly, we need to get new financial instruments in the country. Whenever the people start investing in financial instruments, the economy will be robust. And that's what is the shift, which he called it as a structural shift in India. And then I have the notes for you. So it is available over here. Please go through that. These notes will be posted to you in laix.in/civils-prep. And tomorrow we are trying to address the civils prep issue. And one more thing is, laix.in/test-prep, you will get the magazine of Law Excellence. And also we are going to correct and develop the linguistic skills of the students based on certain innovative techniques. So here, whatever you do, we are taking 100 students as of now. And just it's on a trial mode. So we will correct the answers. We try to make a personal video for the student. and slowly we nurture that particular skill of writing on 4 or 5 questions, because generally students are going for the test series. In the test series, in a time bound when you have to write, the skill development do not happen. So you write and you just present it. And evaluation is not very much personalized. That's what is the deficit which we have observed. So we are trying to fill that. So myself, Sandeep, and Sosin ma'am. Sosin madam is known for anthropology and she teaches our institute La Excellence. And Sandeep sir, you all know him. Myself, Mallishwari. I mean, these are the people who are associated with this particular program. And Nikhil Kalyan, Dayanidhi, these are the people who are taking the review of this particular program. It means we are providing them with answers which are being corrected. And second level evaluation, we have asked these people to review as independent, neutral people so that we can find out something. So if you know any teachers for English who has got excellent command with regard to English, please suggest us and it will really help us. Thank you very much. All the best.